Marisella Botello, a 23-year-old woman from Seattle, Washington, was known for her curiosity, cheerful spirit, and love of freedom. In early October 2020, she traveled to Dallas, Texas, to visit her ex-boyfriend. What was supposed to be a brief weekend getaway turned into a tragedy that shook her loved ones and drew national attention. On the evening of October 10, 2020, Marisella spent her time exploring Dallas nightlife. Those who saw her later described her as happy and relaxed. That night, she visited Select Start, a popular bar in Deep Ellum, a district renowned for its vibrant nightlife. Surveillance footage captured her entering the bar around 10 p.m. She was alone, but it didn't seem to bother her. Marisella spent the evening mingling with patrons and dancing, enjoying herself to the fullest. She was last seen that same night. Security cameras recorded her leaving the bar around midnight, accompanied by a young man. Together, they walked to his car, parked nearby. This fleeting moment became a pivotal clue in the investigation that would begin days later, when her family realized something was terribly wrong. When Marisella failed to respond to calls and messages, her family grew alarmed. Known for her close relationships with family and friends, her sudden silence was deeply out of character. Her phone was turned off, and her social media accounts remained inactive. Even her ex-boyfriend, with whom she had planned to spend the weekend, had no idea of her whereabouts. As concern turned to fear, Marisella's family filed a missing persons report with the Dallas police. The investigation began with an analysis of her movements in the days leading up to her disappearance. The surveillance footage of her leaving the bar became the investigators' only concrete lead. Yet the identity of the man who left with her remained unknown, complicating the search. Police questioned bar patrons and nearby business owners, hoping to uncover new information. By mid-October, the search for Marisella Botello gained momentum. Her family flew to Dallas to participate in the search personally. They distributed flyers with her photo, spoke to the media, and made heartfelt appeals on social media, pleading for help from the community. Marisella's father told reporters that his daughter had never gone missing before, and her uncharacteristic silence filled them with dread. "This is our worst nightmare," he said. Despite their tireless efforts, no updates on Marisella's whereabouts emerged. The case seemed to reach an impasse until the police made a crucial announcement. The man seen leaving the bar with her was now considered a person of interest in her disappearance. His car had been identified in surveillance footage from that night, but tracking him down proved more difficult than expected. This chapter in Marisella Botello's disappearance was fraught with unanswered questions. Who was the man who accompanied her that night? What happened after they left the bar? It would take months for these mysteries to begin unraveling. In the meantime, her family could do nothing but wait and pray for a miracle. After Marisella Botello was reported missing, the investigation into her disappearance began with a detailed review of her final evening. Surveillance footage from Select Start Bar remained the only thread connecting the events of that night. The footage showed Marisella leaving the bar with a man. His appearance, along with the car they drove away in, became the focus of the investigation. However, this provided no clear leads about Marisella's whereabouts. Her family refused to give up, tirelessly working to keep the public's attention on the case. They collaborated with the media, shared heartfelt appeals on social platforms, and distributed flyers bearing Marisella's image and details. Her father shared the pain of their ordeal with journalists. "We are living through unbearable agony, but we won't stop until we find out what happened to our daughter." Meanwhile, police questioned witnesses and bar patrons who might have known the man Marisella left with. Soon, detectives identified him as Charles Beltran, a Dallas resident. However, when they attempted to contact him, they discovered he had fled the city. His sudden disappearance raised serious suspicions, linking him further to Marisella's case. Investigators delved deeper into Beltran's actions on the night of her disappearance. A few days after she was reported missing, police obtained access to his cell phone records, which revealed he had left Texas shortly after that fateful evening. This revelation heightened their suspicions, but tracking him down proved difficult. Beltran seemed to be actively evading law enforcement. By this time, Marisela's disappearance had drawn widespread media attention, both locally and nationally. The story of a young woman vanishing under mysterious circumstances during a brief visit to another city struck a chord with many. Social media buzzed with posts urging anyone with information to come forward. Strangers offered their support and assistance to Marisela's family in their desperate search. The police pursued multiple theories, with the most plausible being that Marisela had fallen victim to a crime. Analyzing data from her cell phone added another layer to the case. Location records indicated that her phone had been switched off early on the morning of October 11th, just hours after she left the bar. Its last signal came from a suburban area near a highway, a secluded location that deepened investigators' fears. During their inquiries, police uncovered connections between Charles Beltran and two other individuals, Lisa Dykes and Nina Morano. These associates were known to spend time with Beltran and were believed to have been with him on the night of Marisela's disappearance. However, like Beltran, their whereabouts were unknown. It appeared all three were deliberately avoiding authorities. Weeks turned into months, with no significant breakthroughs in the case. For Marisela's family, the wait was excruciating. Her mother recalled, "Each day felt like an eternity. We didn't know if she was alive or not. All we wanted was the truth." Eventually, a tragic and horrifying discovery would bring the investigation to a critical turning point. Until then, Marisela's family and investigators remained determined to uncover the truth behind her disappearance. Months of uncertainty only deepened the anxiety of Marisela Botello's family. Meanwhile, the Dallas police painstakingly pieced together the events of the night she vanished. The investigation focused on locating three primary suspects: Charles Beltran, Lisa Dykes, and Nina Morano. All three had disappeared shortly after Marisela went missing, a fact that pointed strongly to their potential involvement. Step by step, investigators uncovered new details. Utilizing cell phone data, detectives traced the movements of the suspects' phones on the night of Marisela's disappearance. The records revealed that the phones of Beltran, Dykes, and Aide were in the same area of suburban Dallas on the night Marisela's device stopped transmitting. These findings became pivotal in identifying the possible location of the crime. A major breakthrough came with the discovery of Charles Beltran's vehicle, abandoned in a semi-deserted Dallas neighborhood. Upon inspection, investigators noted unusual traces in the trunk. Forensic analysis later confirmed that the stains were blood belonging to Marisela Botello, definitively linking Beltran to her disappearance. The collected evidence enabled police to file preliminary charges of kidnapping and murder. However, apprehending the suspects remained a formidable challenge. Authorities suspected that Beltran, Dykes, and Aide were deliberately evading capture, possibly hiding in different states. Arrest warrants were issued, and their names entered into the National Fugitive Database. Appealing to the public through media outlets became a key strategy in the search. Police departments nationwide were instructed to remain vigilant for any leads regarding the suspects. Meanwhile, photographs and descriptions of the three fugitives were widely circulated in the news. Journalists published reports, and volunteers distributed flyers, urging anyone with information to come forward. The situation shifted in early March 2021, when one of the suspects, Lisa Dykes, was apprehended. She was found in a Dallas suburb after neighbors reported seeing someone matching her description entering an abandoned house. Though Dykes initially denied any connection to Marisela's disappearance, her statements quickly raised suspicions. During questioning, she contradicted herself multiple times and avoided direct answers about the night in question. Detectives pressed forward, leveraging the evidence they had and new information obtained from Dykes. Her arrest set off a chain reaction. Within weeks, police located the second suspect, Nina Morano, in Utah at the end of March 2021. Like Dykes, Aide vehemently denied any involvement in the murder, but authorities believed he knew more than he was willing to admit. Charles Beltran, considered the central figure in the case, evaded capture the longest. Police suspected his direct involvement in Marisela's death. His arrest finally occurred in April 2021, 6 months after Marisela's disappearance, when Mexican authorities assisted in tracking him down. His extradition to the United States marked the culmination of the manhunt. With all 3 suspects in custody, the investigation reached a turning point. Police had amassed enough evidence to charge them with Marisela Botello's murder. Yet one question remained unanswered: what truly happened on the night she disappeared? The answers, which would emerge during interrogations and courtroom proceedings, promised to unveil a grim truth that would shock both Marisela's family and the public. The tragic conclusion arrived on March 18, 2021, when the remains of a young woman were discovered in a wooded area in Wilbarger County, Texas. A local resident stumbled upon the partially buried body while walking through the area. Police were dispatched, and initial observations suggested that the remains could belong to Marisela Botello. Confirmation came days later, when forensic experts used DNA analysis to identify the body. The grim news devastated Marisela's family: she was dead. According to the medical examiner, her death had resulted from multiple stab wounds inflicted with a sharp object, leaving no doubt that she had been murdered. For the Botello family, the revelation was a crushing blow, though they had prepared for the worst after months of uncertainty. She was so kind and caring. "We will never recover from this loss," Marisela's mother said in an interview. For her and the rest of the family, justice became their only solace, and they were determined to see the perpetrators behind bars. By this point, Charles Beltran, Lisa Dykes, and Nina Morano were all under arrest, and police continued to build their case. Investigators determined that on the night of Marisela's disappearance, she had left a bar with Beltran and ended up at a house he shared with Dykes and Aide. According to prosecutors, the 3 suspects were complicit in her murder, which occurred shortly after she arrived at the residence. Lisa Dykes' testimony played a pivotal role in shedding light on the crime. As part of a cooperation agreement, she admitted to key details of the night Marisela vanished. Dykes claimed that an argument broke out between Beltran and Marisela, which escalated into violence. She also confessed that both she and Nina Morano helped cover up the crime after it was committed. Another critical piece of evidence was a carpet recovered from the suspect's home, which contained blood matching Marisela's DNA. Experts concluded that the murder had occurred in the house, after which her body was transported to Wilbarger County and buried. In April 2021, Beltran, Dykes, and Aide were formally charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to conceal a crime, and unlawful transportation of a body. Each faced the possibility of life in prison. Prosecutors argued that Beltran was the primary instigator of the crime, with Aide and Dykes assisting him in an attempt to escape detection. During the trial, the prosecution emphasized Dykes' testimony, along with the physical evidence, blood in Beltran's car, traces on the carpet, and geolocation data. The suspects' attempts to erase their tracks fleeing Texas, destroying evidence, and lying during initial inquiries further underscored their culpability. They knew what they had done and tried to eliminate all proof, a police representative stated. Amid the revelations, Marisela Botello's case became a harrowing reminder of how quickly a promising young life can be cut short. For her family, however, the priority remained clear: to achieve justice and ensure that those responsible faced the full consequences of their actions. The arrests and discovery of Marisela Botello's body set the stage for a high-profile trial that captivated public attention and became one of Texas's most discussed cases in 2021. The trial commenced in mid-2021, with prosecutors formally presenting charges against Charles Beltran, Lisa Dykes, and Nina Morano. Charles Beltran stood as the central figure in the case, accused of orchestrating the crime. Prosecutors alleged that he was the driving force behind Marisela's murder. They argued that the events leading to her death began when Beltran and Marisela left the bar together and escalated into a fatal conflict after they arrived at his residence. According to the prosecution, Beltran inflicted the fatal stab wounds and subsequently enlisted Dykes and Aide to help dispose of the body. Lisa Dykes' testimony became a pivotal element in the trial. After her arrest, she accepted a plea deal, agreeing to cooperate with the prosecution in exchange for a reduced sentence. Her testimony provided a detailed account of the night Marisela was killed. Dykes described how Beltran panicked after the murder and pressured both her and aide to assist in transporting the body out of the house to bury it. She claimed that fear of defying Beltran drove their actions. Prosecutors presented a wealth of evidence, including geolocation data that placed all three suspects in the vicinity where Marisela's body was later discovered. Forensic experts corroborated this with DNA evidence, confirming that the bloodstains found on the carpet and in Beltran's car matched Marisela's DNA. Combined, the evidence painted a compelling picture of the suspect's guilt. The defense, however, sought to challenge key elements of the prosecution's case. Beltran's attorneys argued that his actions were not premeditated, suggesting that the fatal conflict may have been an impulsive act rather than a calculated crime. Meanwhile, Dykes and aide's lawyers contended that their clients were coerced into cooperating with Beltran and had no direct involvement in the murder itself. Despite these efforts, the prosecution's narrative held firm. The trial was marked by emotional statements from Marisela's family, who delivered heartfelt appeals for justice. Her mother addressed the court, saying, "No punishment can bring our daughter back, but we want those responsible to be held accountable for what they have done. They didn't just take her life, they destroyed ours as well." After several days of deliberation, the jury reached its verdict. Charles Beltran was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Lisa Dykes received a 25-year sentence for her role in concealing the crime, while Nina Morano was sentenced to 30 years for his involvement. Marisela's family expressed satisfaction with the outcome of the trial but acknowledged that no sentence could ever fill the void left by her loss. "We hoped she would come home, that we could embrace her again, but instead, we had to face a very different reality," Marisela's sister said in a post-trial interview. Following the conclusion of the trial, Marisela Botello's family dedicated themselves to preserving her memory and working to prevent similar tragedies. They established a foundation to support families of missing persons, providing legal assistance and raising awareness about personal safety. Speaking to the media, her mother emphasized their hope that their painful experience might serve as a lesson to others. "We don't want anyone else to endure the agony we have felt," she said in an interview. She stressed that Marisela's case should remind everyone of the importance of vigilance, particularly when it comes to women's safety in unfamiliar environments. Marisela's story sparked a broader conversation about women's safety in society. In Dallas and beyond, activists launched campaigns to enhance public safety in nightlife settings. Proposals included installing more surveillance cameras, improving lighting in high-traffic areas, and training bar and restaurant staff to recognize and respond to suspicious situations. The Dallas Police Department also reviewed its response protocols for missing persons cases. Criticism regarding initial delays in Marisela's investigation prompted the department to implement new procedures aimed at expediting search efforts. A department spokesperson admitted that the case had been a sobering lesson for the entire system, vowing to prevent similar missteps in the future. Nationally, Marisela's story resonated deeply. People across the country shared her story, posted her photos, and called for her memory to be honored. The hashtag Justice for Marisela became a symbol of the fight for justice and a stark reminder of life's fragility. Her family chose to focus on the positive memories of Marisela. Her sister described her as a radiant soul who lit up every room she entered. "We want to remember her as someone full of life, kindness, and love." At memorial events held in her honor, friends and relatives recounted stories of her generosity, her laughter, and her love for travel. The tragedy not only transformed her family's lives but also influenced societal awareness of safety issues. Marisela's case became a powerful reminder of the importance of looking out for one another and acting swiftly when danger arises. Her family hopes her story will be the last in a chain of such heartbreaking events. As the Botello family continues to honor Marisela's legacy, her case stands as a testament to how perseverance and the dedication of investigators can bring justice, even in the darkest of circumstances. Yet justice, though served, cannot undo the profound loss. Today, Marisella's name is not only a symbol of grief but also a call to action, an appeal for change, a plea for greater vigilance, and a commitment to protecting the vulnerable. Her story reminds us all that no life should be forgotten, and no truth, no matter how painful, should remain hidden.